Stand up straight. Little soldier, the name they gave me as a boy, but I grew older. Not into a man, but something softer. Do you know my name? No. Good.
So, I grew up in Devon with my mum and two brothers in a very, very, very rural part of Devon. I think it was a 40-minute walk to the nearest bus stop. So it was quite isolating. So I spent a lot of time on my own or just with my brothers, writing or reading or just walking around. But there wasn't much social contact at all.
So my name is Mia Craze and I am a performance poet, which is different from standard poetry in that it's written for me to perform on stage, which I prefer because it gives more emotion to the piece. It gives more kind of feeling and texture to it as opposed to it just being words on a page. When I was writing in Devon, at the time, I had a lot of mental health issues going on, and a lot of my poetry was quite self-reflective, quite depressing and sad. And for the most part, I started writing as a kind of vent for my emotions. Since coming to uni, I'm in a much better place mentally, and my poetry has kind of evolved to be, for the most part, telling a story or trying to get a point across, as opposed to just being a bunch of emotions written on a page. I've made more friends since coming to uni than I think I ever had in my entire life before that, which is really nice. It's a really pleasant experience, and I love everyone I've met here.
My teeth clenched tight shut for so long they ground themselves into dust and left me choking on the powder, a bitter aftertaste of branding myself with a name I had grown to hate.
Music's definitely a really big part of my life. I think more so at uni than it ever was back home. There's just more to do with music, more live music in Brighton, more gigs, more shows to go to, things like that, and more people with similar music tastes that I can actually just listen to music with.
The name they gave me. The name they draped around my neck like a noose that I wore in the days when I was younger, when wearing a dress would have hit them harder than any fist, silenced them for longer than any curse word I was taught not to be vulgar.
I think I first questioned my gender identity when I was about 14 or 15. I came out as bisexual when I was 13, I think, and then gay when I was 14, 15, and after that I started dressing much more feminine, started wearing more makeup and things like that. I didn't come out as trans until I was 17, but the thought had been there in my mind for quite a while. It just took a while to process what was going on in my head and in my body and how the two sort of aligned. I present more androgynously than a lot of female identifying people, and because I'm biologically male, I feel that a lot of people look at me and see me as male first, and that leads to misgendering occasionally, which is annoying, but at the same time I'm not as feminine as some female presenting people, and it doesn't get to me as much as it might to some people. Like, sexuality, gender is a spectrum, and I think my gender is more fluid than a lot of people's. If it's a scale, I'm somewhere between the middle and female, as opposed to being right at that end of the spectrum.
The boy had grown up and died, and we all sang songs at his funeral, his baptism, the christening, the first day she smiled, the wedding of my tongue to a mouth that had finally learned how to say hello.
There's a pretty huge difference. I didn't hate growing up in Devon. I think I started to hate it more and more the older I got, because more and more of my life at school and outside of school was based on hanging out with people, going for drinks, things like that, which are all really difficult to do when I lived as rurally as I did. I experienced a lot more homophobia, a lot more transphobia than I ever have in Brighton. Since coming to Brighton, I've been yelled at for being trans in the streets once on a night out, and nothing else. When I was in Devon, I've been pushed, punched, kicked, spat on in nights out on the street and clubs. It just happens, and I kind of was used to it at the time, but being in Brighton now and seeing how happy I can be and how free I can be with my own self-expression and not receiving the same backlash for it, looking back, Devon wasn't good for me.
I will not rewrite my own history, but I will choose what I carry forward. The day I got the deed pulled back in the post, I smiled at his funeral.
Say it, spit it out. What is it exactly you're paying? Is the amount I'm cleaning you out? Am I satisfactory? Today I'm thinking about the things that are fuck. Wait, should we just start again? I always fuck that line.